AEW president, CEO, and head of creative Tony Khan appeared on the Ariel Helwani show in studio for an interview with the man he had a very public Twitter spat with several years ago. Khan spoke about a variety of subjects, including CM Punk's tumultuous tenure in All Elite Wrestling, Chris Jericho's future with the organization, WWE's counter-programming tactics, and much more. We'll get into all of the details in this news update. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling, and seemingly how, once again, in the world of professional wrestling has frozen over. This time when it comes to Tony Khan and Ariel Helwani, two men that previously have had a lot to say about each other after some previous interviews went not so great. Now, as mentioned, Khan appeared on the Ariel Helwani show in studio and spoke about a variety of topics. Let's get into them because there's so many to talk about here. Let's start with counter-programming. Now, the topic of counter-programming has been a huge topic of conversation in the world of professional wrestling over the last couple of years, particularly this year as WWE has strategically planned events to compete head-to-head with various All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view events throughout the year. Speaking with Ariel Helwani in this new interview, Khan said he understands the measures, despite thinking that it is purposeful on WWE's part. He said, quote, "I do think it is done on purpose, and I understand it, and it's part of wrestling. We've seen a lot of it, but I think other promotions that have been the challenger brand in our lifetime have seen a lot of it. Jim Crockett Promotions, which is the forerunner to WCW, saw a lot of this. Jim Crockett Promotions ended up having to sell the company to Ted Turner, who then made a great run. It took a while, but if you really look, Ted Turner took over at the start of 1989, and the strongest run came over 6 years later. Almost 7 years later, it started. It's interesting because as a challenger wrestling promotion, you've got a great opportunity, but it's really hard. It involves tons of investment to build up to be a true strong challenger, and that's why we took the risk with AEW when we did. I do think that we've seen that kind of counter-programming in those things, and I understand. Looking back at wrestling history, I kind of expect that." Khan went on to say that the counter-programming challenges have never hurt AEW. He said, quote, "I think it's okay because for us, it's always worked out when we're in a great position. It has never been a thing where it cost us anything, and when you do something like AEW All in Texas, where we do the show in the afternoon, it really worked out great and was one of the best days in company history." To finish off the topic, Khan noted that he doesn't take the situation personally. He said, quote, "It's very interesting. I think that it's something that's a part of the wrestling business, and I definitely don't take it personally. I think it's no more personal to me than it was to Jim Crockett, or maybe less so than when it was Ted Turner, but definitely all of us have seen that kind of counter-programming and could speak to that. Certainly with AEW, I'm proud that we continue to run strong and be that great challenger brand in pro wrestling." Now, one of the recent talking points when it comes to the counter-programming of WWE to AEW is the possibility of WWE partnering up with TNA Wrestling as a method to compete with All Elite Wrestling, or once again help TNA become the number 2 promotion in the industry space, a company that they then can control. Now, specifically back in July, on the very same program, Matt Hardy commented that he believed WWE was working with TNA Wrestling in part due to AEW and its existence. WWE and TNA formed a working partnership in January, with TNA talent appearing on NXT and vice versa. Now, when asked about this by Ariel Helwani, he was asked about Hardy's comments. Khan said, quote, "I really like Matt and Jeff a lot. I loved working with them in AEW, and I still love them very much. I respect that opinion a lot, and I think it's probably true. The fact that Matt said that, it's really cool." Now, asked about the WWE-TNA partnership, Tony replied, quote, "It's a very interesting collaboration. Matt hit the nail on the head, and it makes sense. AEW is a very strong challenger brand. It's not that unusual." Asked if he took the partnership as a compliment, Tony said, quote, "Absolutely. I remember when WCW was starting to do better and Smoky Mountain was running Georgia. Vince McMahon called Jim Cornette and sent a bunch of WWF wrestlers to Smoky Mountain. I do think when you have a strong challenger brand, it's not unusual to see the WWF collaborate with another company. I don't take it personally. It does make some sense looking at the wrestling playbook for the WWF." He was then asked about CM Punk. Of course, CM Punk's tenure in All Elite Wrestling is one of the more controversial moments in All Elite Wrestling's history. In April 2024, of course, Punk joined the very same show, the Ariel Helwani show, to give his side of what happened between him and AEW after All In 2023. Among other things, Punk criticized the company for how it was run and criticized Tony Khan as a boss. When appearing on the Ariel Helwani show, Tony Khan was asked about this fallout with Punk. He said, quote, "If you look at the time before Phil came to AEW, we had a great run and we're having great times together. We're having a great year right now with this roster, and this is the best roster and the best AEW locker room. It feels like in and out of the ring, the combination, this is the best we've seen. We also had great times together. It was clear when we started doing Collision, I wanted to reconcile and find a way of doing those things. I guess that wasn't possible. I didn't necessarily agree with everything he said." Now, Punk noted that he thought people walked all over Khan and that Khan didn't stand up for himself. Responding to the criticism, Khan said, quote, "I don't agree with that, but everybody is entitled to their opinion. That's feedback and fair if that's how he feels. I didn't agree with the description of the way things played out, and that's okay. That's all in the eye of the beholder, just like the whole situation. AEW is doing really well right now, and I'm really happy with what the people on the shows are doing, and it wasn't the first time he and I disagreed, and it may not be the last time, and that's okay. I tried to reconcile and wanted to find a way for everybody to work together. It didn't work, and that's okay. It seems like everybody is happier and doing better right now. In AEW, everybody is really happy, and this is the best locker room has been since the Jacksonville lockdown days." Of course, Punk was fired with cause by AEW following AEW All In 2023. He then returned to WWE at Survivor Series the same year and is currently the reigning WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Now, obviously, in response to this interview on the Ariel Helwani show, that's when infamously the tape of CM Punk and Jack Perry's backstage altercation at AEW All In was released on AEW Dynamite. Now, speaking to Ariel Helwani, Khan explained why the decision was made to air the footage. He said, quote, "I do think that I didn't necessarily agree with the description of how it all happened. It's a TV show and it did a very strong number. For many reasons, I think it made sense, and it was a thing that was advertised and it gained a lot of attention and it did a very strong number. It's in the eye of the beholder. I think the tape spoke for itself, and I didn't agree with how it happened. It was a major part of why I think he was no longer able to continue with us, even though I would have liked to have been able to, and it's clear that I wanted to reconcile and do those things." Of course, as mentioned, Punk was fired from AEW 1 week after the AEW All In incident. Now, let's talk about Andrade, because Andrade, his situation with AEW and WWE is very, very much not clear at the moment, isn't it? After departing WWE, Andrade El Idolo made his way back to All Elite Wrestling. He showed up at the 6th anniversary of Dynamite and ambushed AEW EVP Kenny Omega. Andrade would then go on to join the Don Callis family. Now, that was in early October, and Andrade has not been on AEW programming since then. Now, in this same interview, Helwani asked Tony Khan about Andrade, and Tony Khan said, well, Andrade's welcome in AEW whenever he's, quote, free. He said, quote, "I think the world of Andrade. I had a great experience with him, and he left on the best terms, the original time. And now, when he said he was free and he made his one-night appearance, I was thrilled to see him again. And anytime he's free, and whenever that is, he is absolutely always welcome in AEW." Now, Khan was asked if Andrade misrepresented his status before returning to AEW, and he replied, quote, "I can't speak to that. It is an interesting situation that I'm going to keep an eye on, but I absolutely think the world of Andrade El Idolo." Now, Andrade last wrestled on October 3rd for the Crash promotion in Mexico. He won the promotion's heavyweight championship. Reports state that he's got a 1-year non-compete with WWE, which he's not being paid during that time period. Initially, it was thought that only applied to the United States, so he did the stuff in Mexico, but now it could be believed that maybe that's worldwide. If we get any more details, of course, we'll let you know in the future. Another controversial name in the history of AEW, Miro. Now, Rusev once again in WWE. Miro joined AEW in 2020 in a partnership with Kip Sabian. After they split, Miro became the Redeemer, going on to win the AEW TNT Championship. Now, after losing the title, Miro was on and off television for months at a time before eventually departing in 2025. He wrestled his last match at AEW World's End 2024. Speaking in this interview with Ariel Helwani, AEW President Tony Khan was asked about Miro and what went wrong with his time in the company. He said, quote, "Miro is a great wrestler. wrestler, and he was great in AEW. He was a TNT champion. He and I just had, at times, different visions of things. That's okay, because everybody is entitled to different opinions and different ideas. That's what this is all about, different ideas. We just kind of drifted into different ideas of what we should be doing, and that's okay. He worked in WWE before, and that clearly was a good experience for him. He clearly was excited to go back, and he did go back. I wish him the best. That must make sense for him and why he wanted to do it. Of course, Miro returned to WWE earlier this year in April. Now, Shockwave. This is another confusing and often debated topic. Tony Khan was asked about the status of Shockwave. Now, AEW is introducing the National Championship. It was announced that AEW were going to be doing this, and when it was announced, it sparked some controversy. As NWA wrestlers pointed out, the NWA national title already exists and has the lineage that Tony Khan spoke about in his AEW national title introduction. From there, it was discovered by Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics that AEW and NWA were in a legal dispute over the name Shockwave, which was a trademark filed by AEW in September 2024. NWA filed an opposition, claiming they had been using the Shockwave name for years. In the interview, Khan was asked about the status of Shockwave. He said, quote, "It's an idea. I file lots of different names and ideas of shows. That was a name that I didn't know anybody else had. I'm probably not going to do it. I had a really nice talk with Billy Corgan, who owns the NWA. When I talked to him, I said, if that's a show you might do again, you did it first, you can do that. He said, that's great. I appreciate that. Now, Shockwave has never been used by AEW. At one point, it was rumored to be a possible new show, possibly going to another network. Of course, it didn't happen. And now Khan's saying he probably won't use it. Now, one of the big relationships with All Elite Wrestling is with Warner Brothers Discovery, but recently WBD have been in the headlines regarding a possible sale of the organization. The possible sale of Warner Brothers Discovery has been a popular topic of conversation as of late, with various outlets saying that Comcast, Paramount, Skydance, and Netflix are in line to make bids to purchase the company. Speaking with Ariel Helwani in this interview, Khan was asked about the company's potential sale and how that could maybe affect AEW. He said, quote, "I feel really great about AEW's relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery. I think it's a great situation where we're one of those strong franchise on multiple channels and properties where AEW is very strongly figured in." Now, Khan continued on and said he feels confident in AEW remaining as an important member of the WBD family. He said, quote, "We're becoming a bigger and bigger part as we grow. Now it's been 6 years of AEW. We've continued to become a bigger part of the Warner Brothers family. So I feel like no matter what happens in the future, I think we will be a really important part of the family." Now, Khan was also asked about if AEW will pivot from their current pay-per-view model and maybe move over to a streaming model similar to WWE and the UFC. Early this year, AEW began airing pay-per-view events on HBO Max at a discounted rate of $39.99. This move was a disappointment to some fans who expected the shows to be free of charge on the Warner Brothers-led subscription service. Speaking with El Helwani for a new interview, Khan was asked about the company's current model and if they'll ever include the events for free as a benefit of a service's subscription cost. He said, quote, "I'm not sure. It's a good question. I think with AEW, something I've been really conscious of and tried to stay consistent with is maintaining great prices for families or friends to come and watch the shows at an affordable price. The pay-per-view price for AEW has been consistent since day one. It's the same price it's always been to order the pay-per-views." After talking about how he tries to load up every pay-per-view event to provide value to the fans, Khan said that the company's current media rights agreement is a really strong deal. He said, quote, "I think we have a great model and we just signed a great media rights deal that I think even the most stringent analysts would say is a really strong deal for AEW and makes a lot of sense for us and also shows the faith that Warner Bros., TBS, TNT, HBO Max have in All Elite Wrestling." Now, going back to some of maybe the ex-talents that are now no longer in the company and doing well in WWE, specifically Jade Cargill, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Ricky Saints, Khan was asked about a picture that recently went on social media. After Jade Cargill won the Women's Championship in WWE and CM Punk won the World Heavyweight title, they took a photo of undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes and NXT Champion Ricky Saints. All four were formerly with AEW, but left for their respective reasons over the years. In the interview, Khan was asked what he thought of the photo. He said, quote, "I saw that, and I think AEW is having a great year and is in a fantastic place. The roster right now is delivering great shows, and I'm proud of what the roster is doing right now. It did make me smile because it reminded me of Double or Nothing 2020, the first pandemic pay-per-view. Cody won the TNT title. Mox retained the AEW World title against the late, great Mr. Brody Lee. After the show, Cody and Mox took a photo. I thought it was interesting, and it shows how far in the mirror. I remember the photo Cody and Mox took. I think I took it. I have relationships with all four of them, and they're all very different. I could talk for 2 hours about how each of the four of them and why I liked them and why I thought they were great in AEW, their matches, or how much I liked them all as people. They're not all wrestling in AEW anymore. It just reminded me of the photo in Jacksonville, taking that photo, and how it's crazy how 5.5 years have flown by. Of course, Cody and Moxley, who had left WWE on their own before joining AEW, infamously took a photo by flipping off the camera after that pay-per-view event that Tony Khan was talking about. Now, speaking of stars, once in WWE, now in AEW, one is Adam Copeland. And with John Cena retiring, it's been a lot of chatter recently about a possibility of Adam Copeland having one more match with Cena before he retires later on this year. Now, Copeland is signed to AEW, but fans thought he might be a part of John Cena's retirement tour in some capacity this year, or maybe even in 2026. Now, AEW President Tony Khan was asked if WWE had ever reached out to AEW regarding Copeland. He said, quote, "No, Adam is going to be with us through the end of the year. He is a huge part of AEW, and I have so much respect for him, and I really like Adam a lot. I'm glad to have him here. He's away filming, but he's with us, and he's going to stay with us." Now, Copeland said after AEW All Out in September that he would be stepping away to be with his family on AEW programming. In reality, he's got several filming commitments. Now, we spoke earlier on about ticket prices and keeping things affordable. Recently, of course, there's been so much discussion over WWE's ticket prices as they've gone up over the years, with fans complaining that they're no longer affordable, especially for larger families. Tony Khan was asked if he pays attention to WWE's pricing and the fan feedback. Khan said, quote, "I'm cognizant of what people are saying and their pricing. I think the AEW pricing, which is lower, and WWE shows are more expensive for the fans. We have different models when it comes to the distribution. I think that what we do is very good, and it's been working for us from the very beginning of AEW, whether it was the beginning calls before we had done a live event. We talked about how I always wanted there to be tickets in that range of $20 to $30 for fans to be able to get into the TV shows every week, and would be a consistent theme in AEW. There is still inexpensive ticketing, and the get-in price is usually pretty fair compared to the competition. It is always lower. The ringside seats are more expensive than the highest tier, but they're still more affordable than our competition, and they always have been, and I hope they always will be. I'll try to keep that affordable pricing. That's something I care about, making sure that families and friends can go to the show." So certainly Khan hoping to keep the ticket prices down. Now, he was also asked about a couple of other talents in AEW. He was asked about MJF, and he said that he's hopeful that MJF will be back soon. It had been reported previously that MJF is expected to return to AEW programming sooner rather than later, possibly before the end of the year. Now, he said, quote, "I expect Max to be back hopefully very soon. Max is somebody who has been a huge part of why this has been a great year. And even though he hasn't been available every single week, I think he's done some really great things in and out of the ring this year." Now, MJF was last in action at AEW All Out, where he fell in defeat to Mark Briscoe in a tables and tacks match. After his loss, MJF said that when he comes back to AEW, he'll be a changed man. Khan was also asked about Will Ospreay. Of course, he's out of action with a neck injury. He last wrestled in August at Forbidden Door before stepping away to undergo said neck surgery. Khan said he's hopeful Ospreay will be back by the first half of 2026. He said, quote, "Will Ospreay's going to be back with AEW. I think hopefully earlier next year. I can't say exactly when, but it'll be next year, and I hope it'll be the first half of next year." He was also asked about Darby Allin, specifically when the former TNT champion has maybe gone too far with some of his crazy stunts that he's done in All Elite Wrestling. Khan said he did have a moment, and that moment was from Sting's final match at AEW Revolution 2024 when Darby dove through a glass. Now, Khan said it was the only time he felt Darby Allin went too far with one of his ideas for a match. He said, quote, "I think he's really a brilliant wrestler, and also he takes these chances, and I think normally they're very calculated chances. The one that I thought was too far, and I would say this to him, and I have said this to him 100 times, what I'm saying to you, is in Sting's last match with the glass and Greensboro off the ladder through the glass. That was so much, and that was the one where I thought maybe it was too much, and it wasn't exactly the way it was described. It was pretty brutal, and that was the one after where I said, I think you're so brilliant about these chances, but this is the first time ever where I thought probably it was too much. But it was also the greatest night in the history of the promotion, and he took a huge risk, and it worked out. Finally, Khan was asked about possible incomings to All Elite Wrestling, and he was asked about Killer Cross. Now, Cross, of course, departed WWE in August. Some are still speculating maybe as a work, but fans are still wondering what his next move may be. Cross has made surprise appearances in other promotions, including GCW. He's competing at various indie shows, and some fans have wondered if AEW might be an option for him. Khan said, quote, I have not spoken to him in many years. Helwani said that he thought Cross would be a layup for AEW. He said, quote, Khan said, quote, that's interesting. I'm not sure. I like Killer Cross. It'd be interesting at some point to talk to him again. It's been a long time since I've talked to Killer Cross. It would be interesting. He did a match with Darby. I like him. That night I had a lot of things going on, but I actually wanted to go and see his match. I didn't get to see him that night, but that probably would have been a great chance to reconnect with him. He's great. I think he's tremendous. Khan noted he was doing a Comic-Con appearance with Darby on the night of Darby's match against Cross. He said, quote, it's interesting. You never know what's going on with different wrestlers and different organizations, so I can't speak to that. I think he's very talented, and Darby said he had a great experience with him. It would definitely be worth reconnecting. We get so deep in our foxholes and thinking about things we're doing. Sometimes I get so laser focused on one thing that I think about those things. At some point, he's definitely a great name to think about. Now, as of right now, Cross does remain a free agent. And finally, he was also asked about Chris Jericho. Of course, Jericho not been on AEW television since April, and he has been rumored to be making a WWE return next year as his contract with All Elite Wrestling is up at the end of December. Tony Khan said, quote, Chris Jericho is somebody who is in AEW. He's been away from us for a bit. I love Chris personally and professionally. I just reached out and wished him a happy birthday recently. Now, Khan noted that Jericho has been in matches as recently as April, but would not commit to when Jericho could or would return to the company. He said, quote, I love having Chris in AEW, and the door's always open. He says his absence comes down to working out the dates. So we'll have to wait and see if indeed Jericho does return to All Elite Wrestling or goes back to WWE. But there you go, guys, the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As you can see right there, we're just about 25 subscribers away, 26, from 25,000. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, click the like button, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.